Billy Edwards was centre half forward because Kevy busted his thumb.
Yeah.
Billy, I didn't know Mullins and Bowles, he changed it full forward and played in the ruck. I couldn't remember that.
Who's that, Frank?
Greg said on Saturday night that they changed the tactics as Rodney Quinn was rucking for Cleve, and they changed, and him and Greg and Trevor Bowles changed it full forward and rucked. But they had different tactics they were using. Like you said about Greg, it worked out a strategy.
Yeah.
He was playing centre half back in that grand final, and I gave him a set of instructions to carry out because Cleve cleaned us up by 21 goals or something in the semi-final.
Which is significant. Yeah.
Yeah, significant to say the least. I'd played a lot of footy in a lot of places, and I've never seen a team play like they did that day. And we just weren't in the hunt. Didn't matter what we do, it all went wrong, and they were kicking goals from everywhere. And and the bloke that was standing him kicked 10 goals at centre half forward. And because something had to change in that grand final, when we got back to the grand finals, there had to be a change of the way we were playing, or we're going to get done like that again. And as you know, there's another howling north wind blowing. And so the idea with Frankie was that he couldn't let this bloke get a kick, and he didn't. He didn't. He stuck to him like glue.
Very clean player. But that day he was told to use his elbows a bit against this Trevor Marshall because he was standing Trevor Marshall.
And he did that?
He did it well. He did it well.
And how did Trevor take that?
Oh, not too good. I don't know how many goals he kicked the fortnight before, but too many.
Yeah, I think Greg reckoned between him and Rodney Quinn, they got 12 or 13 between them, so
yeah,
just he kicked the goals.
And what about in the grand final?
Only the one in the first quarter that he got. And after that, I didn't get many kicks, but he didn't get many either. So it was a sort of a nullify sort of a situation.
Yeah, and like I said before, any time he looked like getting out of hand, if Frank couldn't catch him, Mullins would stop him.
Yep. So he was a problem that you dealt with.
Yeah.
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 And roughed him up a bit, and there's a few other things went on too that I won't tell you about.
Well, I admire Frank's intensity, I must say.
Yeah, well, that's he's got that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we had to come up with a plan, and the plan worked. That's basically what happened. And that's why we won the grand final, and he was part of it. There's about 5 blokes that were directly involved in the plan, that had to work, and fortunately it did.
Well, obviously you had a shot and you took it.
Yeah.
I can remember there was myself and a couple of other mates of mine. They weren't footballers, but I was peed off because simply because I wasn't able to be out there playing, of course, in the grand final. But we were in the booth at those times, so there was always a couple of boothers in the final series. And I forget who I was with even, but it was about 3/4 time, and our blokes were right in it, and the other blokes, the booth was filled up with Cleve supporters, of course, and there was only us 2 or 3 lads that were quietly in the background hoping like hell that our blokes were going to cause an upset. And you could see that these buggers, these other guys in the booth, they were concerned because they had everything organised for their big do that night, as you know. They even had their wine and that. They'd even gone as far as to get their wine bottles labelled with their premiership year and whatever on it. So it was a real kick in the guts, and you could see these blokes, my God, when the siren went, there was hardly any Cleve supporters left around the place, really. Yep.
Cleve, I think, was the... Well, Cowell North probably were on top of the ladder, I reckon, for quite a bit of the year. But we got thumped by Cleve in the second semi. And if it wasn't for Greg and his ability to think the game through, we'd have never got there. Yeah, we'd have never made it. There's a bloke in the Cleve side, and you probably heard it, Roy, at the dinner, Trevor Marshall, who killed us in the second semi-final, and the changing point in the two games probably was the tactics that Greg used against Trevor to stop his influence that day. And once Greg hit him a couple of times, fairly of course, he went out the game and was hardly sighted from then on, even though he did kick their first goal, I think. But from then on he was out of the game. And any time that he got a bit threatening, Mullins would pop up and put a stop to it.
Well, obviously you had Aish. It was a happy mix of strategy and biff.
Yeah, it sure was.
So he was a pretty hard man, Greg.
He wasn't a big man, but he was, yes, he was tough.
He hard at the ball.
Yeah, very fit, yeah.
He was brilliant, that's the way to describe him. He'd break out of a pack and drop a ball. He was a left leg kick. He'd drop a ball from centre, and Trevor Biles, is a big guy, he played full forward and he'd drop it on Trevor's chest, and Trevor was a pretty good kick for goal.
Yeah. So really, it was a wonderful victory. And as Bob mentioned there a moment ago, I mean, Greg, he was a star. Yeah, he was a bloody good footballer.
Nice kick on him, apparently.
Yeah. Well, I will mention something about his kick. Greg, he got the ball out of the centre time and time again. And that big swinging left foot drop kick of his, it wouldn't matter a bugger who was. I played in the forward line, as did Trevor Biles. He played at full forward, I played at centre forward. I don't know how many times Greg would swing out of the centre at about 100 miles an hour, and he'd forget about us two, and they'd blaze away at goal. I remember out at Ellsworth Park there one day. I reckon it was Ellsworth Park. And Greg, I think he kicked about 3 goal 16 or 3 goal 18.
Famously.
Yeah.
3 goal 18.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say he was. Perhaps
it was a good kick, but it might have been.
Yeah, as far as a drop pass was concerned, he was good. But when it came to goal shooting, I don't know whether I'd say he was super duper, but that was just Greg.
You saw him play, obviously.
Yeah, I remember him as a kid. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, and I seen him kick a goal out of the centre square there one day at Cowell. They were kicking up the north end, and I suppose it was a bit of a breeze, I don't know, but he just dropped it, and it was a drop kick back in them days, and it went straight through the middle. Hell, it was a magnificent kick. Yeah.
It was never going anywhere else?
No, she was on her way right from the word go.
From the moment he looked at the ball, probably.
Yeah, broke that centre pack, and he wasn't far from the centre bounce, and bang. Yeah. But yeah.
He got that ball and he knew where our goals were.
Well, he knew roughly where they were.
Yeah, he did, yeah. I don't know how many times Trevor said that. He just looked up and saw he'd lead like buggery, big Trev would. He was a good footballer too, Trevor. He's not with us anymore, of course, but he'd lead out and do the right thing. Trevor was a beautiful kick. And then the ball would be soaring over his head. And Trevor would be swearing and carrying on about Greg.
Well, of course, Greg does get to give his version of that story here. Would you like to hear that?
Yeah, I would. I would.
Because we are making a film, you see.
Greg was my boss for a couple of years.
Oh, really? There you go. Well, this would be great fun. Just while we have a look at this stuff, let's have a look at what's the surface like at Arno Bay?
Yeah, it was. When I played, it was turf on the sand. Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, they were all right. The Warminda was pretty poor. Port Neal was pretty poor. Ellsworth Park. Do you know anything about Ellsworth Park?
No, tell me about Ellsworth Park.
Well, they were only in the league the first year that I was there in 1965, 4, whatever. No, I didn't play there in 64, 65. It's out between Rudell and...
I know where it is,
Oh,
yeah.
you know where it is. Well, it's all overgrown now. The oval was, you know, like this size, handkerchief, and it had no proper surface on it or anything. And that's what you played footy on. And there was a write-up in the paper, in the Sunday Mail or the Advertiser, read back, I don't know, 8 or 9, maybe last football season, about a bloke who kicked 3 goals 18. And that was me at Owsborough Park on that.
There you go.
Yeah. And they didn't name me. And do you think I haven't copped some flack over that over the years? But it really wasn't the way it looked. I was playing centre, and Trevor Biles. I'll show you a photo of him.
Yeah, go on
Right, somewhere here. There's a photo. There he's going to be. There he is there. That's David Masters. That's Trevor there.
Yep.
And he doesn't look, that's me standing alongside him.
Yep.
But he's actually about this wide in the shoulders.
For the size of him, he was very quick.
Over a short distance, he could sprint. And
Yeah, he came from a family of sprinters. I think they said there the other night that his dad won the Store Gift or the Bay Sheffield or one of those big. And Trev was like that, over 20 metres. He was quick. And then once he was rolling, you couldn't stop him. He'd go through anything.
you can't get around big blokes once they lead.
He was the leading goal kicker there over there every year that I was there, I think. And he could have, this 1965, I don't know about in 65, but in 66, the year we went top, he could have kicked 100 goals, but he persisted in kicking screw punts from a mile out, and his points tally was a lot bigger than his goal tally. I think he kicked about 9. You ask Maxine. He was playing full forward, and he was trying to lead out, and I'm trying to kick. By the time I've got the ball from centre, because they didn't have any rucks, and it's 40 metres to the goals, and I'm trying to kick the ball to him. And in the first half of the match, I was having a lot of trouble, and they were going over his head around, and he had nowhere to move either because it was so tight. And back in those days, if the ball was touched going through the goals, then it'd be credited to the player as a point. But they don't do that these days. They don't really count the points. So I hit the goalpost 3 times, and I think I put about another 4 or 5 out of bounds altogether. And it was a nightmare really, but that's what happened. I kicked 3 goals 18. 3 goals.
Like all winners, there's only one point of view.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Slightly different from your recollection.
Yeah.
And how were Cowell North travelling then?
Yeah, they were doing all right. Yeah.
See, I think at the Mortlock that year, I reckon Cowell North fielded the centre line from full back to full forward that year. So we had a good side.
I haven't looked at these things for years.
So you were certainly they were thereabouts when you rocked up.
Oh yeah, well they were the Port, Cow South and Cow North when in the old County Jervois. In the whole time that I played there, until Cow South folded and merged with Cow North, we were both in the 4 all the time. And they actually, in 1964, no, that's the year I went over there. 1965. That can't be the year we played off against Arno Bay. They finished in the 4, so did we, and they won their way into the grand final, and we didn't. And on the day of the grand final, as was it in 1969, there was a howling north wind blowing, and they lost the toss, and they played Port Neal, I reckon. I'm not too sure where they played, but anyway, they kicked against the wind in the first quarter, and then they had to win in the second quarter, and then Port Neal had to win in the third quarter, and the wind changed around the opposite way and gave Port Neal the win in the last quarter. Otherwise, South would have been right in it. But when the wind changed, they had 3 quarters of the game they were kicking against the wind.
Was Frank playing for South then?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he would have been centre half back, I think, for South. Yeah.
It was sort of it was sort of interesting back in those days that the rivalry between Cow North and Cow South was a bit like the rivalry between the Adelaide Crows and Port Power.
Kindcutter Warramboo.
Yeah, same sort of thing.
Yeah. Cowell North is in
Well,
South,
the decision to sort of split the town when the two sides, when they decided that the amalgamation and so on, well, the main street was used as the dividing line. And how that worked out, I don't know. But, I mean, Brian Sherman played with us, and I mean, he was on the other side, and Frankie came over as coach, of course. But Cow South, they had a damn good side. Mervyn Rodder was their captain coach for a number of seasons. He was a terrific footballer, represented the association on million times. They had a good side, a real good side.
Which was why it was not exactly an amalgamation. It was more, okay, you've folded. I guess you're playing for us now.
Yeah, that's how it was. Yeah.
Well, the name didn't change for some years.
But I mean, that happened in every country town anyway, didn't it? I mean, if a floater came into the town, well, I mean, you always did your research and made your promises. A bit political about the whole thing, really. It was a lot of bullshit, generally, what we used to offer.
Probably mainly you don't want to play for that bunch of arseholes.
That's exactly right. That's how it worked.
What brought you to Cow?
Oh, I was a stock agent. I'd started in Adelaide, and from there I went to Snowdown. That's where Bev was. And, then I went to Cowell, Kimber, back to Cowell, and then I got out of the stock agent game and finished up working for myself, bought a butchering business at Gamaraka. Yeah, and then after that I went farming down the southeast.
Okay, whereabouts down there?
Lucendale.
Didn't play footy down there? Or?
No, I was too old when I went down there. Yeah, I would have. They tried to get me to. I was too old. Yeah, I probably could have, but not like I was used to playing, so I didn't take it up. Yeah,
but you played for Gamaraka, obviously. For
I played there. I started off 2 seasons, junior and senior colts with South Adelaide. Yeah. And then 2 seasons with Goodwood Saints in A1 Amateur League. And then went to Snowdown, had 2 seasons there. And then went to Cowell, 2 seasons. Went to Kimber, 2 seasons. Oh, no, hang on. When I was at Snowdown, I didn't play, I only played 1 year at Snowdown. I played Centrals, played with Central Districts in the league side for a year in 1964. And then I went to Cowell and played 2 seasons, and Kimber for 2 seasons, then back to Cowell for 3 seasons, and then Gamaraka for, I think, 4, 5. And I coached all of those places except Centrals, obviously.
I'll show you a bit of Greg Mullins talking about playing for Wadiki. Who'd you play for up at Kimber?
Wadiki.
Wadiki.
Coach Wadiki. Yeah. I only played 1 year. The second year I did my AC joint here in a big way in the trial match against Warramboo. Missed the season, but there's only 4 teams, so I played in the finals. But I couldn't play with a screw in. I got the screw in the week before before the final started. I got it out and went and played. Yeah.
Peter Jackson followed him in Southern Farmers. And then they went top. The first year Peter was here, but I think that might have been Greg's coaching, not Peter's expertise.
Mind you, Peter could play a bit.
Oh yes. He was a good. He was a good outside player. He wasn't you wouldn't see him in the middle of a group anywhere. He'd be on the outside.
You obviously remember him?
Yeah, Peter Jackson. Yeah, well, he was a Cow lad from memory. In his sport, Mary Jackson. You remember old Mary?
Oh, CWA thought the sun shone out of Salmon Bend. Yeah,
and he had a sister Sally. I'm pretty sure that's the same Peter Jackson that they're talking about.
He got 44 touches one day in a game down at Wadiki, just scouting around the edge.
And Greg Mullins was definitely an inside player?
Oh, and Greg was everything. Greg was everything. He was a brilliant kick, absolutely brilliant.
Drop kick in particular, I gather.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I just tell you a little incident on the should leave it there, but anyway, I was coaching Cowell North in 1966, and there was a man in goals was called Bob Atkinson, and there's a big 6'4" ruckman for Arna Bay, Peter Rent was his name, and he was playing and he mistreated Bob Atkinson, so Greg thought he'd settle that, so he comes straight into Rent and put 2 fists like that. And next thing I saw, Greg run across over when Rent was chasing him.
That's the truth of it. And I thought, geez, this bloke's going to kill me. I don't blame him. I didn't get afford it either.
Peter, I did hear a story the other day from the Cowell North coach, Greg, about being at this ground many years ago.
Yeah.
And having a little altercation. You'd recall that?
With Greg Mullins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, it was a very windy day and the wind was blowing straight down the ground. Yeah. And we were trying to work the ball up this flank. And I took a mark, and there's a little fella called Bobby Schultz for standing the mark. And I virtually ran through him and just kept on going, you see. And when I took my kick up here somewhere, Mullins come out of the sun, and I could see this bloody ball of a man. He had his knees up and his elbows up, and he caught me on the shoulder, like he leapt and stuck me a beauty. Anyway, as it turned, he knocked me down, but it didn't hurt me. But so then I got up and chased him, and about out in the middle somewhere, I caught him, and I had him by the throat, and our captain coach come and pulled me off. So it's a good thing he did, otherwise I bloody would have been rubbed out for the season.
Good on you, thanks very much. That's what you were talking about the other night.
About what happened. I was coaching that year, that was in 66. He was chasing Mullins, and Mullins got him, and Mullins ran away and he caught him. Because Mullins wouldn't be in it, like he'd hit somebody and then he'd go on and play football, and they'd go on chasing Greg.
Oh, so he dished out the nut a little bit, I gather.
Yeah, he did.
He was a hard man, Peter.
Yeah, he's the same man. 6'4", won a male medal in 1964.
My understanding was that Pete didn't catch him. I don't remember him catching him anyway.
Well, Greg's insistent that he wasn't caught.
No, I don't think he was caught. I think Pete might have altered the story a little bit to make it sound a bit better from his point of view.
Well, he would like to remember him catching him.
I know. I mean, Greg had run. Pete, as good a footballer as he was, I mean, he wasn't quick, whereas Greg was quick. So I don't remember. I don't remember Big Pete catching him, but he might have. But I don't remember.
But certainly the initial ball of muscle and bone coming at Peter was very real.
It was. Put him on his ass. He didn't like it much.
Who's this one?
He's a cousin of mine, Johnny Schultz. You probably heard at the dinner about the bloke that Greg kicked the ball over a couple of Cleve guys' heads, and hoping Johnny was quick enough to get onto it first. And Johnny did, but there was no one forward of him, and he wasn't sure what he was supposed to do with the thing. So he ran and ran, and I thought he touched it on the ground once or twice and kept running, but Greg said no, he ran his full limit and then scrubbered a kick, and luck happened. It dribbled through. It was the only goal for the whole day from either side to be kicked into the wind. And,
who's this bloke?
Oh, that's the bloke sitting alongside me, Frank.
Could play?
Could play. For not an overly tall man, he could take pack marks that you'd in amongst big blokes. And who come out with it? Frank. Just timing of putting the hands up, I reckon, and knowing exactly where to position himself.
So, if you want to know any questions, I'll do my best to answer it.
Well, what have you got there for us?
That's when I was going to school. I was only 15 there. I won the trophy for the best junior in the association. But we had a reunion 35 years later. The netball won it that year too, and I wasn't allowed to drink or celebrate, but that's premiership. We won another premiership in 1960, and then the other one was in 1969, but
this is with Carper.
yeah, we drew with Rover, and there's an old Aborigine there, and two of the Coolney fellas gave him a flag and a wine, and we drew, and he wasn't worth a blooming cold pie, old Cyril. And next week they took booze, and we beat Rover quite easily. Who had to have a replay, but it's a dirty trick to get the old blokes drunk. A couple of devils out there that I thought was a dirty trick. But I don't know, he was a footballer that played out Kimber, and then he came to Mangala, and that was his best years, but we still got the end of his career, but he was a very brilliant footballer. But that's what they did that year. And we beat Rover anyway, and then we had a reunion 35 years later.
So this is in the Cowell Association?
Franklin Harbour football.
Oh, Franklin Harbour.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Carmody, Clothier, Binky.
Franklin Harbour Football Association. There's 4 teams: Mangalo, Rover, which is Coolney, Carper out here, and Cowell, 4-team league.
Did Carper have its own ground?
Yeah, had the same ground. You would have went past it on that.
Lincoln Highway.
Church was in the coffee shop. Or what was
Elbow Hill.
All right. Is there any?
No, so you wouldn't know it was. The tennis court's been pulled down, and the shed and everything. There's nothing there.
In fact, they changed the name of the club to Elbow Hill just for 1 year, I believe, in their history.
Yeah.
How many ovals were there in Cowell at one time?
Oh, well, there was one up there where the present one is, and then that got too hard with stone and bendy eye, and then we shifted to another oval back up here, and that wasn't very good. That had the topsoil blown off of it, and then 1963, we upgraded all the oval over there. We coated it with sand and got lawn established, and so we've played there ever since.
Oh, the surface was probably, I went there from Snowdown, they had no surface.
Yeah, right.
It's called Bay of Biscay soil, and they've got cracks this wide in it. You can put your foot in them. And all the houses crack because of the soil. And they run the harrows around the oval before you start and try to fill in all the cracks. It doesn't work that well, but anyway, I drove over to Cowell, and first thing I come to when I came down is this great big expanse of kikuyu, green kikuyu, and I thought, oh God, this is better than I expected. And it was. It wouldn't matter if it was wet or dry, it was always the same. Yeah, it was a good oval. But the one they had before that, like he said, the bendy eyes, 3-corner jacks and the whole works, and just the surface was almost limestone. I saw the oval, but by the time I got there, they were on the good one.
Right. Yeah. And the top of the goal, no one can be within 10 metres from the top of the square.
So Bruce, beautiful skills there, just picked it up, weaved his way out to Rick Leonard. Rick Leonard looks up, gets it forward, and Nick Gale, gutsy mark, knew he was coming, and just got pounded, but
usually bounces up.
Yes. He's had a ripper game so far. Damo missed it. Young Weiss, and he's played it holding the ball. Dale Franklin kicks forward. Big mark from Wayne Piggott, who's had a great game, plays on. He's played a lot of good games in these Anzac games. I think he's won about 2 or 3, usually in the losing team
side,
as well.
I think we can safely say he doesn't really play a bad game, Phil.
Yeah, he's pretty consistent. Gives his heart and soul. Clay Smith passes off, good pass. And he has found Toddy Schumann. So I don't know if I'd put a bet on this one.
All right, put one on anyway.
Well, I'll go with him. He's going to kick this one. A schooner that he kicks this. A schooner. Rightio, is it looking all right? He's looking good.
Good bet
I'm
to
glad
have.
I had that bet with you.
Good bet to have with the cameraman. All right.
Well, that's a bit of momentum for the Cowboys here. So it's 5-2 to.
So only ever one over at a time, or
one at a time. But we shifted we played on the Bindi Ice and the Limestone over there in '57, and then in '60 we won another premiership, and that was up here past the school. But that had the topsoils down to the hard pan. That wasn't real good either. But the ovals in those days, you know, they never had the money, and now they've got water and they can get lawn established and turf and that. It's changed that much.
It has, isn't it? There were a lot of dirt grounds back then.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Why did Frank go to Cowell North?
To coach.
Did he?
He did. And we were arguing yesterday. How come he, what reason he came to Cowell North?
Because I played for Cowell South. I was 25. I won the best and fairest for Cowell South, and Rodder won the male medal. So I won that, and I wanted to go coaching. And I thought, well, this is my chance. So I applied. I went and saw a couple of the officials and that, and applied to coach Cowell North, and I got the job. And I coached Cowell North in '66, '67, and '68.
Oh, right, you coached before Greg. I thought you coached after. Yeah, well, that's what we couldn't work out.
And Greg played in '66, and then he went out to Waterkey and played, and then he come back and coached Cowell, or Cowell North, I should say.
Yeah, he got Waterkey, I think, from bottom to second. And the next year, after he'd left, they won the grand final, and the lads at Waterkey still put that premiership win down to Greg's influence the year before.
Yeah. Shock Warminda win.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because that would have been a shock at that
1965, yeah, well, I wasn't coaching then. Actually, 1965, I reckon Frankie was coaching. Because I was at Kimber in 67 and 68. So that was before. There was a bloke called Williams, was a school teacher. He got the job coaching Cowell North, and the next year, 66, yeah, probably 66. We got married in October '60. Yeah, that year, I was still at Cowell, and the school teacher got shifted. So Don Reed, I don't know if you heard any of them talk about Don Reed. He was the manager over me in the stock firm, and he wanted to put in. He'd lost the job previously, and he wanted to put in again and get the job back, the coaching job. And I was going to put in for it, and I didn't because he put in for it. And the hierarchy at North passed him over and appointed Frankie because they got Frankie from Cowell South, and he came over. And I'd have to say he was probably an average coach, but they got.
But he only came to coach, and he was a good player. So.
Yeah, that's right. And Don Reed, he was rotten.
I coached from 66, 67 and 68, and then 69 Greg come back from Waterkey, because he played for Cowell North in 66 when I first started coaching, and then he come back and he coached in 1969, 70 and 71. He coached.
So that's the 69 team?
Yeah, that's it. There's about 3 different photos of the 69 team, but it's 20 players there. Yeah.
I don't know why Greg can't read this because he wrote this.
Can't read his own writing.
No, you can't read. What are you reading? No, you gave it to me.
We don't know who wrote this one, but it's obviously Bill Franklin.
He thinks it's some of Bill Franklin's
It was written after they won the grand final.
With archers up and ribbons gay, Cleve took to the field Cowell to play. Victory assured, they could not wait, they had 4 kids to celebrate. But all Cleve's onslaughts North did spoil, for Greg had prescribed them dinkum oil. Now Cleve will have to foot the bill, beaten on their own dunghill.
Amazing how much poetry there used to be, or particularly on the West Coast actually. You know, everyone would write these funny poems. About...
Yeah. Oh, that old Bill Franklin, he was a skinny old bloke, and he just loved the football, and he'd come out with all these ditties all the time.
Yep, we had Shirley Burton. She actually ended up writing a little book with lots of memoirs and little ditties and things in it that she used to write about the netball and the tennis. And I've got a feeling that in the memoir there is something about Mangalo football as well. But she was very clever with it, very clever with it. But yeah, there's more recently Scratch Lovegrove from Cleve. Some of his write-ups in the Tribune were pretty funny. Well, it depended on whether or not you were on the right or the wrong end of the write-up.
Being on the receiving
might have copped it. Yeah, might have copped a bit from him over the years.
And at one stage there, Cowell had a thing for the, I guess it was for the footy trip or something. If you got mentioned in the paper, it was $1 fine. So one right up there.
Until it got up to a $10 fine if you had a photo.
So he was aware of this.
Scratch worked this out, and so every write-up included every Cowell player, so they all had to pay this money. Scratch got nothing out of it, but he made sure everyone got mentioned, if not once or twice.
Fantastic.
And if there was a photo involved, well, the penalty was even more because you had your photo in the paper.
He's pretty witty. He was pretty.
So
witty.
yeah, no, Scratch was good on that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Right, now, just bear with me.
Yep.
Yep.
I'll do a quick break myself.
He was a tough little footballer. He had a property. They had a property, him and his brother and his father, and he used to go out shearing as well, and he'd be shearing all day, and he'd come to training.
Yeah.
And he's as fit as a fiddle, that bloke.
It was Bob Schultz.
Yeah.